Morning.
Can we get you just a step up? Thank you.
All right, the number one pick. Let's set the record straight. Have any other organizations taken a run at it, or have you made it clearly the case that you're not trading the number one overall pick?
I have not made that clear. I'm not trading the number one pick. No one has called me on it.
Okay. 16th overall pick. Where are we at with that right now? Is that still in play?
I've been entertaining some offers. We've had some good amateur meetings the last few days. There's going to be a real good player there. So it would have to take something pretty good for me to move that pick.
The Buffalo Sabres appear to be closing in on Robin Lehner. Are you concerned about, I guess, the depth of the goaltenders that are potentially available there for you to go out and acquire?
There's still a lot of goaltenders. For me, it's about improving the D. We've improved our coaching, and we're going to try and improve our goaltending. So for me, it's the whole package. But we're in on a few of these goalies. We're in on some free agent goalies. So we want to do the right thing, but we don't want to overspend either.
You don't want to give up a first-round draft choice for a goalie.
No, I don't.
That appears to be the price, though, Leonard.
That's what the reports say. Yeah.
So, I mean, do you get the sense if it doesn't happen today that it might not happen for until free agency opens and next week?
Not necessarily, but those are two goalies in play. I can tell you that. But there's also this is the free agent shopping period, so there's a lot of discussions also. Actually, there's more than those contracted goalies in play. So there's a lot of goalies in play, actually.
Does that make you then a little more comfortable, or maybe not in as much of a rush because you feel like there's maybe more opportunities for netminders than you might think at this time of the year?
Well, for me, as I said earlier, is that we want to improve our D. We want to improve how we play defensive hockey, and we want to improve our goaltending. So that whole kind of back-end concept is what we're trying to improve. And so I look at it like a whole project. And there are goalies that are available now today because of the enticement of the first-round pick. But we're not trading that pick for a goalie, so it may not happen today then.
Specific to the D, then, are you thinking you need more puck mover or a guy that can defend and provide a little bit of grit and toughness?
If we can get both, that would be great. I know we have some of those traits in the existing D, so I mean they're gonna play a better defensive game. They're gonna know how to defend better. There are true defenders out there. There are true puck movers. There's two-way guys. There's what's interesting to me in this whole exercise is that there's a lot of players that are kind of coming out of the woods here, and I think that's probably because we have cap space and roster spots. So. There's some interesting names out there, and I believe there will continue to be more interesting names. The types of D, I'd probably like one of both if I could, but if we can't, if we can only get one of them, that's fine for now. And I'd like to try and, as I said, I'd like to try to improve the defensive core, and we'll continue to try and do that.
How busy choices would you give up for a really good defenseman?
I'm not going to get into that. It's what the market will bear, and if it's a guy that we decide helps us.
How busy has it been compared to years past for you, and are prices higher than what you've been used to dealing with?
The draft is always busy. As a manager, you go in there and you've got a to-do list of 10 things, and at the same time you're marshaling your amateur group, and so it's the same busyness, and I will expect it to be busy right through to the end of the draft tomorrow.
Peter, do you get a sense that a lot of managers are holding on to their picks because of the depth that's present in this year's draft?
Well, I think that's a general feeling, but I mean, I think Buffalo traded the 21st for Leonard, so there's a first-round pick that was traded. Well, what happens as you get closer to the actual draft and the drafting of players, and there's a little bit of excitement that builds in your amateur group, and you covet your picks more. So there's a little kind of dynamic that goes around the draft with the picks that kind of tails off afterwards. So that's what we're going through right now.
Peter, if you know you want like a top-tier goalie, but you're saying you don't want to trade the pick, why if you think that goalie can help you now, whereas maybe the 16th pick might not help the team for 2-3 years down the road?
I didn't say I wanted a top-tier goalie. What I said was I wanted to improve our goaltending. There are teams that have, it depends on how you define a top-tier goalie. Unless there's someone that really stands out, and there's no one right now, that would be the reason why I wouldn't trade that pick.
Would you
trade the
I wouldn't rule anything out. Like a lot of things happen between now and the time that pick takes place.
Would you trade the pick if the player you want has already been picked?
We got to sit in our amateur meetings to go through the flow chart if this player's there and that player's there, and I can't answer that. I mean, we've talked about a group of players. If they're not there, then we'd look to maybe trade down,
You commented that.
and maybe trade down and then trade that pick. That's a lot of moving parts, boy. But we actually talk about that in those scenarios.
My apologies. You commented that you expect the team to be coached to play better defense. Can you comment on the two additions of the assistant coaches, and will the organization hire a third assistant?
Yeah, sure. Jim Johnson and Jay Woodcroft both obviously had worked under Todd in San Jose. I had the opportunity to talk to and interview both of them at length. I think they're very progressive thinkers. They're very hard workers. They love to talk about the game. Jim's had extensive experience with D in a number of places. We talked about a lot of the young D that he's worked with. We talked about how we're going to play D as a group. Jay has been a large part of a very successful power play in San Jose, and just lately at the World Championship. He's a thinker too. So two kind of dynamic guys. They may seem a little quiet, but they're dynamic thinkers. So happy to get them. And while it seems kind of obvious that just pull two guys out of their staff, we did talk about a lot of guys, and we interviewed a lot of guys. Sorry, we didn't interview a lot of guys. We interviewed probably 4 or 5 guys, and probably we will be hiring a third coach. And Rocky Thompson's in that mix. We've had discussions with Rocky, and there's a few others. I don't know the timing of that one. It won't be in the next few days.
What about a goalie coach?
Well, we still have one, and I have to get to know him a little bit more. That doesn't mean he might not need help, but that's a work in progress. I just have to get to know him, and I have to see which goalie we end up with, and then we'll have to make some decisions based on that.
How have amateur meetings gone? You mentioned them, and because of the change in the staff, how have they gone?
I think they've gone well. A large part of the work's been done. Now you just look at kind of scenarios. If, as we said earlier, if this guy's not there, should we jump over this guy? And we got a couple of kind of sub lists, specialty lists. I mean, I think it's been good. Right now, you've got Bob Green and Scott Housen leading the charge here, and the group's been pretty active there the last couple of days. But I've been satisfied.
Peter, have you been able to, are you interested in or able to track McDavid to see how he's kind of been handling things over the last few days here?
No, not really. I'll see him a little bit later tonight.
Can you just kind of talk in general about, there's been a lot of changes made now in the last 4 to 6 weeks, and how you feel where you're at right now?
It's been, it hasn't been fun. These are people that are good people and that have been part of a storied franchise, and anytime you have to make those changes, it's you kind of cut to the core. So it hasn't been fun. It's a necessary part of my job. I have to assess and evaluate and make these decisions. I do feel some new energy in the group. Maybe that's because they're still here, but I joke about that. They're a good group, and listen, I'm walking around and I'm like the Grim Reaper here for the last 2 months, and it hasn't been fun for me. I know it hasn't been fun for them. So, anyways, there's a new energy there, so that's good to see and to be part of. But that's part of when you come in and you make these decisions and you evaluate and you got to make hard decisions.
Peter, everybody keeps saying, because you work for the Bruins, that if you're going to make any trades, it'll be with the Bruins because their players better than anybody else. Are we jumping to conclusions there, or is that just a natural assumption?
I think what is correct in what you said is that I know those players better than any other players in the league. So from there, you can make your own conclusions.
Peter, just thinking bigger picture, I know you've only been with Edmonton for a couple of months, but just such a tough decade for the franchise, and drafting Connor, a player like Connor, do you think it changes a franchise overnight? Tonight is the night where it all changes?
I've been, ever since we won the lottery and I got the job, I've told myself that I have to try and temper expectations and to help Connor. He's such a good player, and so you're going to hear me temper expectations for a long time on him. I want to make sure he gets up and running, and he's going to have his ups and downs. So I preface my answer with that. He's a terrific player. He's going to really help our franchise when he gets up and running. But it's an exciting day.
Peter, when you pick like in the top 5 or so, the expectation level is that that player can maybe play on your team right away. When you're picking in the middle of the first round, what's an expectation level for those sort of players? Like where it's for a 60?
Well, it's certainly not to play, and it's a bonus if they do, and you have to be careful. You know what? They're like right now we're looking at guys that are really likely to be top 2 line guys or top 4D.
And back in junior again next year.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
A year in pro. So
Yeah.
we're talking
3 years. Yeah. Stranger things have happened. Like I've been in Boston. I've been part of a few guys that have their 19-year-old year. They've come on, and obviously their 18-year-old year. So that could happen, but it's unlikely. Based on the guys that we have in that cluster, it's unlikely.
Peter, just to get back to the goalie for a second. How much of a priority is it to get a guy who's carried the ball, been a starter somewhere else? Because there are some potential guys available, but with fewer than 100 games experience.
That's the question. That I can't give you a definitive answer. I probably wouldn't if I had it, but that's the question. Like you've got a group that have got a real small sample size, and then you've got guys that have carried the ball. So, as I said, I look at that whole back end as a whole, and hopefully when they get all together, hopefully they will be better when everything gets into place. So it's part of getting a goalie, and it's part of getting some D2, and it's part of the defensive play. So you won't see the end product till you start watching us, but hopefully in the next few days I'll be able to get a goalie in place.
Take a couple more guys.
What about if you trade for a goalie, you'll still be drafting a goalie in this draft somewhere too?
Probably, yeah. I mean, like one of the things we talked about was trying to get a goalie every year. So odds are depending on where the picks shake out, it's a pretty good odds that we'll pick a goalie too this year.
16, are you going by need or just the standard best player who's there?
Well, it depends on who's going to be there, because we've got a couple of routes to travel if a certain player isn't there, and one route would be by need and one route wouldn't.
How hard is it to just keep track of all the different variables and possibilities out there?
Well, it's hard. That's part of my job, and you got to juggle a lot of things, and you just kind of ramp up to the draft, and activity picks up, and you help me with the social media. I get some little snippets here and there, but you just got to stay on top of it. You got to stay on top of your staff. You got to make calls. You got to talk to your guys. You got to talk to the GMs and know what's happening, what's transpiring. And you get a sense, just having done it, you get a sense of deals that are going to come down, deals that will happen.
Were you in that are running?
Yes.
Can you talk just a little bit about the lottery day, and what your reaction was at the time? Everybody, a lot of people were glued to their sets, because of Connor McDavid. But
I wasn't glued to my set. I was in Fort Worth. My daughter was in a gymnastics meet, and I was actually watching a movie with my son, and I wasn't even really paying attention. And my son showed me the tweet, and I'm like, wow. I was like, poor other teams, but good for Edmonton. So it was surprise. I mean, we all, I think, did not anticipate it just based on the odds. So I was happy. I was like, too bad for the other guys. Happy for Edmonton.
For things to change tonight in that first round, is a lot of it have to do with kind of a domino effect of a team?
It's whether it's trades or guys that are the surprise picks. There's always surprise picks that go before your pick, and guys start sliding, and then that'll dictate whether you move down or stay where you are to get a sliding guy. It depends on who the sliding guy is. So there's a lot of things that could happen.
When you slide though, do you start to wonder do we get the guy right here?
No, you don't. No,
you don't ever see how come he's dropped 10 spots?
No. We've all made good picks. We've all made bad picks, and I'll give you an example. Pasternak, we had him quite high, and he was. We weren't moving around until we were trying to move up to actually get him, but You know, you got to stick with your list.
He would be a rare one though, pick that late, deep in the first round, who actually kind of steps right in.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, thanks,
Thank
Peter.
you. All right.